Fandoms are an interesting topic. The way a huge number of people can come together over a celebrity, fictional work, or even a sport is truly fascinating. But I think what is more fascinating is the lengths at which these truly devoted fans are willing to go for whatever they're a fan of. According to studies done by scholar Henry Jenkins, we become fans for escapism and the community that is often built on these fandoms. We've always had a tendency to flock with people who have shared interests or hobbies as ourselves, and fandoms are a modern-day version of that. Being able to relate or rely on these interests can act as the only sense of meaning or happiness to people, especially in times where everything else seems to be against them. Going through tough times in fandoms will only strengthen the passion and community, and will leave a sense of being able to take over the world, or at least whatever corporation is behind the scenes. But how do we get there? Is this even possible? Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. Today's video is made in collaboration with Sophie, or gwsn here on YouTube. In this video, we are going to take a close look at gwsn and what happened to them throughout their career in order to understand better how a group of people fought very hard for what they loved. gwsn's contract expired on April 29th, 2021, and the group went their separate ways. But the fandom fought very hard to change the fate of the group. This is the story of gwsn and a fandom's devotion to save their group from disbandment. Before I start, here's a few quick notes. The script and research was done entirely by Sophie, so huge thanks for all her hard work. We also want to mention that we are in no way, shape, or form complaining about gwsn's contract ending and what happened after that. Most people inside or even outside the fandom knew that that day would come, and although we were hoping for a contract extension and one was actually in the works, it was inevitable. So we don't want any smarty pants in the comments telling people that they should have been grateful for the time they got. Today, we're solely going to be focusing on their history and how poorly their disbandment and the months leading up to it were handled, and what the fandom did to come up with a solution out of desperation. We tried to cover everything that deemed necessary, and we will attempt to be as accurate as possible. But with that said, we do not know everything. None of us know what happened behind the scenes. The information was gathered through Sophie's time of being a fan from the beginning, as well as information that is readily available on the internet. Now for the actual video. A lot of fans, including Sophie and even myself, had a lot of issues with how gwsn was handled, and they even tried to come up with a solution. But in order to understand what happened, we need to go back to the origins of the story and go through everything that led up to that point. gwsn was a 12-member K-pop girl group co-managed by Swing Entertainment and Off the Record label in South Korea, as well as Vernalosum Entertainment in Japan. They were formed through Mnet's survival show Produce 48, and that was a collaboration between Mnet's popular show Produce 101 and the successful J-pop girl group AKB48, and a handful of other Japanese 48 groups, including HKT48, NMB48, SKE48, and NGT48, thus giving the joint title of Produce 48. Each country would bring 48 girls to compete in a handful of challenges to win the hearts of the public, also referred to as national producers, to ultimately win a spot in the final debut group and debut as a K-pop idol. Now, I would love to assume that everyone knows what Produce 101 is and how it works, but just in case you don't, here is a quick recap. The first season was made up of 101 female trainees, and the final group consisted of 11 girls, given the name IOI. Since IOI was Mnet's first attempt at the format of debuting a project group, the group's contract was only 6 months. Though even in the short time they were together, they managed to create quite a large fan base for themselves and are still loved by many, even 4 years after their official disbandment. I have a whole video on IOI and what happened to the girls after the disbandment of the group, so if you're interested, please check that out in the iCard above or in the description down below. The second season, also titled Produce 101, was a male version and aired in the summer of 2017. Once again, various entertainment companies sent a total of 101 trainees to compete for one of the 11 spots in the debuting group. This time, the group was named 101. Due to the success of IOI, 101's contract lasted 2 years instead of the before-mentioned 6 months. And just like IOI, 101 became very successful and reached huge domestic and global success. When 101 neared disbandment, many of the devoted fans wanted a contract extension, and it felt justifiable due to the group's large popularity, and there were even countless rumors throughout 2018 of this being a possibility. Despite this, the only official statement made by their managing company at the time, Swing Entertainment, was on December 18, 2018, where they said in the statement that they would be going through with 101's disbandment as planned, and announced the group's final concert in January of 2019, approximately a month after the contract was scheduled to end. Then, in November 2017, Mnet announces through a performance at MAMA, or the Mnet Asian Music Awards, that they were going to be collaborating with the Japanese entertainment company AKS, the company that was in charge of AKB48 and its sister groups. Each country had to send in 48 trainees to compete for a spot in the final group. This time there would be 12 spots in the debut group, since the intention was to debut an equal number of girls from each country to create a quote-unquote global girl group to promote both in South Korea and Japan. Spoiler alert, that did not go as intended, as only 3 Japanese trainees made it into the final lineup. Now, we can discuss the problems with that, but honestly, there is no time in this video as there's already way too much to cover. The season relied heavily on both Korean and Japanese songs, as well as showing the difference between a rookie trainee from Korea and the already experienced 48 idols, and highlighting the difference between the high standards and talent and visual a K-pop trainee has to meet in order to debut versus the more stage presence and fan-for-service focused career of a J-pop idol. The live showing of the final episode of the 3rd season aired on August 31st, 2018. The initial 92 girls had been narrowed down to top 20 girls through an elimination process supposedly based on the votes of the national producers, and were to engage in their last battles for the chance to debut and to win the hearts of the national producers watching from all over South Korea. Finally, at the end of the live finale, after a whole hour of waiting for Lee Seung-gi to announce all 12 girls, like please just get it over with, it's getting boring at this point, we finally had the 12 members of the 3rd produced group, SOFIE'S.
Jang Won-young, Miyawaki Sakura, Jo Yuri, Choi Yena, An Yoo-jin, Yabuki Nako, Kwon Eun-bi, Kang Hye-won, Hom Da-hitomi, Kim Chae-won, Kim Min-ju, and Lee Chae-yeon.
Now, a rather loud number of people had an issue with this lineup. First of all, there was a large discourse about whether or not all the members quote-unquote deserved their spots in SOFIE'S. Especially members like Hye-won, Min-ju, Chae-won, and Yuri were particularly called out for the rankings, and speculations of vote manipulation quickly arose even in the early days of SOFIE'S existence. Members like Hye-won were called out especially from the international fans of the show for her supposed lack of talent and stage presence. For other members like Yuri and Chae-won, people were simply surprised to see them rank in the final group after considering their ranks from the episodes prior to the finale. Another issue that people had with the lineup was the lack of Japanese members. Mnet's idea of the global girl group seemed very unrealistic with the lack of the Japanese 48 girls, and fans were generally skeptical of how they would make it work. There was a lot of issues with the lineup, but I think you get the idea by now. In early September of 2018, just a few days after the finale of Produce 48, a person known for selling celebrity flight information shared info about the members' first trip to Japan, where they went to talk with a Japanese company. This information showed that allegedly Mnet had bought the flight tickets to Japan days before the actual finale and had successfully predicted, or whatever you want to call it, 6 out of the 12 SOFIE'S members. Still, it hasn't been officially debunked nor confirmed whether the information was legit or not. However, due to the previous behavior of Mnet and the lack of appreciation for the lineup, netizens didn't find it difficult to believe such allegations. This was at the time the last thing said about the lineup of SOFI'S, and it seemed like everyone agreed that it was rigged, but instead of dwelling on it, fans were impatiently waiting the debut in October. October 29th, 2018. SOFI'S finally debuted 2 months after the Produce 48 finale with her song La Vie en Rose. Accompanying La Vie en Rose, there were 6 B-sides, 3 of which were originals and 3 that were songs from the Produce 48 final, just SOFI'S versions. 2018 was a big year for K-pop, following the immense success of BTS's 2017 hit DNA, as well as their appearance on the 2017 American Music Awards and the Billboard Music Awards, even bringing home their first Billboard Top Social Artist Award, and thus being the first to do so in the K-pop industry. The overall popularity of K-pop skyrocketed and brought a huge increase of new international fans to the K-pop industry. That same year, many of the groups that had been previously referred to as third generations of K-pop had either disbanded, went on hiatus, or nearly hit their 5 or 7 year mark. Or in boy group cases, the older members of the groups started enlisting in the mandatory Korean military service. This called for a new generation of K-pop to come and take the spotlight, and it did. Slowly starting in 2017, taking off in 2018, and continuing to thrive, the fourth generation of K-pop has begun, and already has some popular groups established like Stray Kids, Idol, Luna, ATEEZ, ITZY, TXT, and of course, SOFIE'S. With so many new international fans, companies had a much larger reach than just the domestic scene, and if they marketed their groups correctly, they would gain a huge global fan base, despite not necessarily making it big domestically. Most probably hoping to be the next BTS or Blackpink. And with this new generation, a new distinct sound followed as well. Now, we won't be going into the boy group aspect of this discussion since this is a video about SOFIE'S, a girl group, and honestly, we have talked too much about men already. Following the popularity of Blackpink and their girl crush concept, this became the new trend in early fourth generation girl groups, and even influenced the musical direction of some third and second gen groups, if they wanted to reach a large global audience and stay trendy.
Let's kill this love. Yeah. Ram pa 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 pa. Let's kill this love. I'm in the black dress. 널 위한 black.
But why am I bringing this up? Because SOFIE'S didn't do this. SOFIE'S debuted with an elegant flower concept and with a sound that can easily be shoved into stereotypical, often misplaced cute concepts. The only similarity SOFIE'S earlier titles shared with the trendy girl crush concept was the tendency to replace the chorus with a synth-heavy EDM-like beat drop, or have it as a post-chorus, as an element of many songs in the late 2018 and 2019 shared. Despite this, SOFI'S did really well. So well, in fact, that their first mini-album peaked at number 2 on the Gaon Music chart and broke several records for girl group debuts, including but not limited to gathering the most first-day sales of a debuting group at the time with 34,295 copies. La Vie en Rose being the most viewed debut song of a K-pop group in the first 24 hours at the time. SOFI'S having their first win only 10 days after debut, breaking Blackpink's record at 13 days of being the fastest to do so. They had many more achievements in their early days, and for that I recommend checking out SOFI'S stats on Twitter for more information. In 2018, SOFI'S won several awards, including the Best New Artist Award at Mama, Rookie of the Year at the Golden Disc Awards, and the New Artist Award at the Seoul Music Awards. Before SOFI'S official debut in October, Stone Music Entertainment created a new subsidiary company to manage SOFI'S and Idol School winners from Miss 9, taking over for Stone Music and Pledis, who had previously been tasked with managing SOFI'S. There were speculations about this being because of the lack of Pledis trainees in the final group, but that was just a rumor. And honestly, after seeing what happened to After School, I'm kind of glad that they got their own company and ran away from Pledis. Quickly following the achievements of their Korean debut, SOFI'S had their Japanese debut. The single was first performed at their Japanese debut Showcon on January 20th, 2019. The single was officially released on February 6th and sold over 200,000 copies in the first week of its release. Following the success of their first Korean release, they came back with their second mini album Hard Eyes on April 1st, 2019 with the title track Violetta. Their second mini album, just like their debuting album, did really well, topping several charts and selling over 130,000 copies in the first week, breaking the record of girl group first week sales at the time. On June 7th, 2019, after Off the Record added additional dates, IZ*ONE kicked off what would be their first and only tour called Eyes on Me. The tour visited 8 cities around Asia, including Seoul, Bangkok, Taipei, Hong Kong, and 4 cities in Japan, and had over 81,000 attendees. Around this time, they also had their first US performance at KCON New York 2019. At the tour, they teased their upcoming studio album scheduled to release in November of 2019, with 2 unit songs called So Curious and Ay Ya Ya. During their tour, IZ*ONE also released 2 other Japanese singles, Buenos Aires on June 26, 2019 and Vampire on September 25, 2019. Needless to say, IZ*ONE was doing great. They had topped the charts, and they were front and center in leading the 4th generation of K-pop girl groups and had broken many records, thus making a big name for themselves, especially domestically. They also had a quite strong, united fan base. Having a strong bond between Korean and global fans is really refreshing, considering the usual K-net versus global mess that was practically in every fandom. Following their massive commercial success and riding the high of the recently ended tour, Off the Record announced that IZ*ONE would be coming back with their first full-length studio album called Blue Eyes. On November 11th, 2019, the album would feature 12 songs, including the previously mentioned So Curious and Ay Ya Ya Ya, and would mark the end of their Flower album series. Fans were absolutely thrilled. Not only would they be getting a full album, but everything we knew about the album so far only gave fans more things to be excited about. And on October 29th, 2019, IZ*ONE released a comeback concept trailer called When Is Your Blooming Moment? And that only had fans more excited. And then, shit hit the fan.
This investigation into irregularities surrounding a K-pop competition TV show is picking up speed. The key to the probe is uncovering whether financial transactions were made between the show's producers and talent agencies.
Earlier in 2019, while IZ*ONE was off doing their own thing and being successful, the 4th and what would be the last season of Produce 101 aired on May 3rd, 2019. This season was titled Produce X 101 to add a little pinch of spice to the otherwise repetitive format of the previous seasons. There wasn't too much of a difference, but as a viewer, it was definitely nice to have it mixed up a little bit. The final episode was aired on July 19th, 2019, and we had our 4th Produce group X1. X1 consisted of 11 male trainees and seemed perfectly tailored to the taste of the global fans. Because of this, they did not receive nearly as much backlash from the international viewers, and they seemed really content with the new boy group. However, Candace discovered a strange numerical pattern in the votes of each boy, and it was too perfect. Too coordinated. Not only this, but on August 1st, 2019, 272 Korean viewers came together to file a lawsuit against Mnet for charging for an undisclosed fee of 101 for their on-site votes. This led to a rather lengthy investigation, and to this day, there are still things coming out about the situation. Let's go over the main timeline of the case, since it has greatly impacted not only IZ*ONE, but their brother group X1, and also fellow label mates from S9. Just for the record, I do not have much knowledge about the whole entire thing. All the information we provide has come from various sources online and Wikipedia. If you want a more in-depth explanation of the scandal and what happened, there should be plenty of videos on YouTube that explain the whole situation. Let's get into the timeline. July 19th, 2019. The Produce X 101 finale is live, and some eagle-eyed viewers noticed how all the final group members' total vote counts seem to be multiples of 7,494.
Constant differences in votes. So when you subtract the second place's votes from the first place's, you get 29,978. When you subtract the fourth place's votes from the third place's, you get 29,978. When you subtract the seventh place's votes from the sixth place's, you get 29,978. Like this, the number 29,978 comes up a lot if you look at the ranks. So Tony is the guy who finished 20th with 284,789 votes. But when you take the number of votes Tony got and add the 18th place's votes, you get the 10th place's votes. When you add the 17th place's votes, you get the 9th place's votes. So what do you get when you add the 16th place's votes? The 8th place's votes. So when you add a lot of the other competitors' votes to Tony's, you magically get someone else's number of votes. So after seeing all this, a different Knet pointed out that there must be a formula to all this. And what he found out was pretty interesting. When you multiply a certain number by the number 7,494.442 and round the results up, you get everyone in the top 20's votes, except one. But the guy pointed out that if you use this formula, you should have gotten 704,478. But instead, the vote came out as 704,748, and said that this might have been a typo by the Produce 101 staff members.
Mnet comes out with a statement saying that there has been a miscount, though the final ranking is correct, and they had no intention of messing with the lineup. July 29th, 2019. The top 20 Produce X1 agencies met up and discussed the future of X1 and came to the conclusion that they would not demand a change of the X1's lineup, and they would support the group going forward. August 1st, 2019. The lawsuit for electoral fraud is filed and the official investigation begins. August 20th, 2019. The Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency issued a search warrant on the CJENM offices, and they discovered a voice recording of the staff members talking about vote manipulation. This led to further investigation of not just the 4 Produce 101 season, but also other voting-based Mnet shows such as Idol School, Show Me the Money, and Superstar K. October 1st, 2019. The Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency confirmed that 2 to 3 members of X1 were manipulated into their lineup by taking some votes from other trainees. Search warrants were issued for Starship, Woolim, MBK, as well as several Produce 48 companies. October 15th, 2019. South Korean television network MBC made a special documentary called PD Note on the rigging scandal. This only enraged the general public even more, and Knet started complaining about the activities of the 2 active groups at the time. October 16th, 2019. Investigations expand to looking into potential bribery done to manipulate the votes. November 5th, 2019. This was one heck of a day. After months of investigation, the main producers of Produce 101, An Jun-young and Kim Young-bum, the police issued arrest warrants and travel bans for the 2, as well as some other staff, as well as the vice president of Starship Entertainment. Starship acting shady? Quick guys, let's act surprised. This arrest happened due to said men trying to destroy all the evidence. An Jun-young admitted to having manipulated the rankings for IZ*ONE and X1, and later admitted to having manipulated the lineup of IOI and 101 too. November 7th, 2019. Police announced that the final top 20 for both Produce 48 and Produce X 101 had already been decided before the actual episodes happened. Due to popular demands from K-netizens, Mnet released an official statement regarding the delay of IZ*ONE's upcoming schedules, including their comeback, reality show, and variety appearances. X1 goes inactive as well. Let's pause here for a second. and let's kind of review everything that's happened. The staff behind Produce 101 has been arrested for fraud and vote manipulation, and it's been made public that ICE1's and X1's lineups has nothing to do with the votes of the national producers, and they are a result of one big scam. Naturally, the Korean public is pretty mad about this. Imagine putting your time and love into something, feeling like you have an influence and a say in a group that you're gonna help create, only to find out that it was all an elaborate scam to make you think that you had influence, and even spending money to ensure a spot for your favorite. With all this said, I cannot begin to understand how stressful and scary this time must have been for them. The members of the groups were essentially victims in this whole situation, and people were being very nasty. So ICE1 and X1 go on an indefinite hiatus until further investigation, and it also needs to be decided what is going to happen to the two groups. December 3rd, 2019. More shady stuff gets revealed. An Jun-young, Kim Young-bum, and a third staff member were charged with obstruction of business and fraud, and several of the participating entertainment agencies' staff have also been charged with bribery and for violating the Improper Solicitation and Graft Act, which is a South Korean law that limits the amount of money you can gift to another person in a private setting. One of the reasons for this law is to prevent bribery. December 20th, 2019. The first trial happens. It was requested that this would not be a public trial to protect the names of the trainees who were affected by the vote manipulation, which personally and a lot of other people I know are very happy about that, especially considering ICE1 had already gotten way too much hate just for being a group, and some of the girls were literally children at the time. December 30th, 2019. CJ E&M CEO formally apologizes for the manipulation and the whole scandal. He also says that they are working on what is going to happen to ICE1 and X1 going forward. January 6th, 2020. X1 disbands. CJ E&M, Swing Entertainment, and the individual agencies representing the 11 members of X1 had a meeting where they discussed the future of the group and eventually concluded not to pick up X1's activities back up and disband the group from that day forward. There are many videos that go into depth about what happened to X1 specifically, so if you're interested, I suggest checking that out. Regarding ICE1, a statement was put out the same day stating that everything looked positive for the future of ICE1. February 3rd, 2020. At midnight Korean Standard Time, ICE1 released the cover image for Bloom Eyes and announced their official return with the album on February 17th with the title track Fiesta. What a great year for ICE1. They were absolutely thriving. With the release of Fiesta and the album Bloom Eyes, they broke the record for the highest first week sales by a girl group with 356,313 copies sold. And by doing this, they were also the first girl group to surpass 300,000 sales in the Hanteo chart's history. ICE1 already had a pretty large devoted fan base. As we all know, 2020 brought on the pandemic, and many of us were stuck at home, even not being able to go to work or school, much less meet up with people. This also had a major influence on the K-pop industry. A huge part of a K-pop experience and being a K-pop idol is getting to interact with fans. Usually, K-pop companies will arrange fan meetings during promotional periods for the latest comeback, as a way to ensure a good relationship between idol and fan, since you're more likely to spend money if you feel like there's a personal connection, and also to boost sales. If you don't know how a fan sign works, basically it is a lottery, and every album you buy is a lottery ticket. So the more albums you buy, the bigger chance you get of meeting the idols, and therefore more sales for the group. Thankfully, we live in an age of technology, and companies use this to their advantage. And instead of in-person fan signs, they are now holding online fan meetings, where instead of seeing them face-to-face, you get a timed FaceTime call with them instead. Concerts were also done online, and more companies have been holding online concerts. ICE1's companies also found a great use in this. The pandemic did not have a negative effect on ICE1 and on their sales at all. Actually, quite the opposite. On June 15th, 2020, ICE1 released their third mini-album, One Addict Diary, to kick off a new album series, the One series, following the previous Flower trilogy. Not only did this album do well in the charts, One Addict Diary became the second girl group album to receive a certified double platinum by the Korean Music Content Association.
or KMCA for short. Off the Record announced several of these online fan calls, and unlike before where the attendees mostly were stationed in South Korea, the fan calls made it more accessible for fans internationally to join, and this might have contributed to the boost in sales. Or maybe it's just because One Eric Diary is a top-tier album. Who knows? Following One Eric Diary, IZ*ONE held their first online concert on September 13th, 2020 called One Eric Theater. Their last Japanese release was with a full album titled 12th, releasing on October 21st. The album included Japanese versions of all their previous Korean title tracks, as well as songs worked on by some of the members. December 6, 2020, at the annual Mnet Asian Music Awards, IZ*ONE performed Panorama, the title track of their upcoming album One Reeler, to be released the day after on December 7th. One Reeler is an important release, not only because it did outstandingly well compared to their other releases, it certified platinum and even debuted at #1 on the GAN chart, but because it is the last official album release we got from IZ*ONE. January 26, 2021, IZ*ONE released a promotional single in collaboration with Universe, a new fan cafe-esque mobile app. February 2021, a few of the members, Eunbi, Sakura, Minju, Yuri, and Wonyoung did a collaboration with the sister Soyu to release another promotional single, this time for the Pepsi X Starship project, the single being titled Zero Attitude. Last but not least, on March 26, 2021, they participated in the compilation album Rewind Blossom to remake the 1996 song 3-4 by the vocal group Ra. These were the last 3 music videos we got from IZ*ONE. Not to jump too much in the timeline, but on February 11th, 2021, it was announced that IZ*ONE would be holding their second and final online concert. One, The Story. It was teased with a photo of the 12 girls recreating the scene from Lavie and Rose, their debut single. The concert would have 2 dates, March 13th and March 14th, and was to accompany their upcoming contract expiration. Yet, a talk of extending the contract was in the works, at least according to credible sources, who said back in January, quote, "There was an internal agreement to only have the group work together until December 31st, 2020. We are collecting the opinions of the artists and their agencies. They will continue their promotion as planned until April. We will let you know if there's any changes," unquote. Obviously, this sparked hope amongst many fans, because this was the first time an actual contract extension for a Produce 101 group was in the works. This had to end well, right? The members had revealed to be positively wanting to stay in IZ*ONE, and what could the companies possibly get out of not agreeing? After all, fans were robbed of almost 4 months with IZ*ONE, which might not be much for a 5 to 7-year-old group, but a temporary group who already has a time limit, that is a lot of time. So it would only make sense, right? Truly, the individual agency would agree, right? No, of course not. March 10th, 2021, just a few days before their concert One The Story, IZ*ONE's agencies Off The Record and Swing Entertainment came out with the following announcement. Quote, "Hello, this is Off The Record and Swing Entertainment, jointly in charge of IZ*ONE's management. As officially announced on March 10th, the IZ*ONE project will end in April. IZ*ONE's official fan cafe content and social media will operate until the end of the project, and future plans for these platforms will be announced via a separate statement later on. We express the gratitude to fans who have given love and support to IZ*ONE until now, and we ask for much support to be given to the members' future activities. IZ*ONE will greet fans through their online concert One The Story, which will be held in 2 days on March 13th and 14th. The IZ*ONE members are currently working their hardest to meet fans at the concert. We once again want to thank the fans who have always shown support, and Off The Record and Swing Entertainment will always support the IZ*ONE members who will go further as artists. We ask that you show much anticipation and support for the new sites that IZ*ONE members will show you from now on. Thank you," and quote. Later on, Mnet stated the following, quote, "Hello, this is Mnet. Ahead of the conclusion of the IZ*ONE project, Mnet, Swing Entertainment, and Off The Record have held discussions and listened to the opinions of each agency for the best activities of the 12 members can carry out. The activities of the project group ICE1, which debuted in 2018 with the album Colorize and grew into a girl group that represents Asia and is loved not only in Korea but also around the world, will come to a close in April as planned. A 2-day online concert, Won the Story, will be held on March 13th and 14th with the fans who love ICE1. Mnet, Swing Entertainment, and Off the Record express our gratitude to the 12 members of ICE1 who showed their best and will continue to support them as artists so the fantastical story they created together can continue on. Please anticipate and support the news sites they will show from now on." End quote. Now, what do these statements tell us? Number 1. ICE1 will be disbanding as planned, but more importantly, number 2, a contract extension was, in fact, in the works. There was nothing to do. The big bossman had spoken. ICE1 would have their concert, do a few more promotions, and disband the last few days of April. Fans could only spend this time looking back at the few years with a smile before they had to say the final goodbyes.
우리의 시간은 언제나 항상 영원할 거야. 너와의 기억은 기적 같아. 영원히 보이지 않아도 나는 매일 널 맴돌아. 평행선을 따라 걷다 보면 날 볼 수 있을 거야. 너의 평행 우주.
Except, hell no. Not only had the fans grown to love this group, but their entire runtime had been very messy and they deserved better, and so did the fandom. Alongside the initial sadness, a big part of the fan base was fuming and felt cheated. Of course, losing your favorite group is sad, but it is essentially something we all get over at some point. But it didn't stop there. ICE1 was such a commercially successful group. They topped the charts and broke records with every comeback, be it Japanese or Korean. They had a large fan base who loved them and loved seeing them together, and felt cheated out of almost 4 months of content. That is a whole comeback. Another thing is the lack of communication and just overall the unprofessionalism about the whole situation. ICE1's last comeback, One Reeler, was released on December 7th, 2020, but nothing was said about this being their final comeback. And their final concert was just kind of hinted at being their last. But everything behind the scenes just seemed so messy. Let's put this into perspective here. IOI, the first produced group, held their final concert on January 22nd, 2017. They performed their disbandment song Downpour that was specially said to be their final song and music video. In their final days, everything was done to wrap up IOI and conclude their story. 101's disbandment happened on December 31st, 2018, yet the agencies decided to let the group finish their end-of-year activities through January of 2019, and their last concert was held at the end of January that year, concluding their activities. 101's last comeback was released in November of 2018, and it was transparently their disbandment comeback. Based on statements by Mnet and insiders, we know there was made a desperate attempt to keep the group together, and the girls themselves had either hinted or downright expressed their willingness to stay in ICE1, and this sparked something in particularly Korean fans. During the 2 days of Won the Story, ICE1 performed 2 unreleased songs. Lesson, a Japanese ballad produced by member Yena, and Parallel Universe, produced by another member and leader Kwon Eunbi. The second song left quite an impression on the fandom. Even if I don't see you, I linger around you every day. Walk along the parallel lines and you'll see me. This sparked the Parallel Universe project, a project funded by Korean fans to reboot the group. This has definitely been seen before, a fandom trying to help their idols by funding and creating visibility, and even reaching out to the agencies. X1 is a perfect example, but never to this extent. Let's read the first announcement. gwsn's fandom hereby declares an official launch of the Parallel Universe project on April 16, 2021. The project's name, Parallel Universe, originates from a fan song that was released at ICE1's online concert, Won the Story. The Parallel Universe project is a first fandom-led relaunching project, unprecedented among domestic idol fandoms. It aims to relaunch a group with 12 members of ICE1, the global girl group whose promotions are supposed to end in late April 2021. ICE1. ICE1 has received a lot of love from both Korean and international fans during its 2.5 years promotions, achieving great results on the music charts and recording high album sales. This performance resulted from the fans' desire to leave unforgettable memories for ICE1's members, and continued seeing the 12 members more beyond the initial decided project group promotional period. However, important news such as the end of the project, which should have been announced through an official fan cafe before the last album promotions, and the online concert reservations were announced through media reports 3 days before the concert without any prior notice, at which point it became impossible to refund the concert tickets. This is an outcome where the will and right of the fandom, who is the main consumer of idol groups and wanted the extension of promotions, were definitely not reflected. Moreover, in a situation where all the events have been done remotely for more than a year due to the pandemic, so the direct communication between artists and fans have been extremely restricted, such a decision is that much more difficult to understand for the fans. Hence, gwsn announced that they will engage in raising funds for the relaunching of the group with the 12 members of ICE1. Actually, a total of 9,846 fans participated in the preliminary demand survey for funding, which was conducted only in Korea from March 19th to 25th with a phone verification to prevent duplicate submissions. Considering the number of participants, we estimate that the desire of the fandom to relaunch ICE1 is very huge. Based on the result of this demand survey, gwsn established an unincorporated association, Parallel Universe Project Investment Association, henceforth referred to as the Parallel Universe Project, on behalf of the entire fandom to negotiate with the agencies for group relaunching and to make the fundraising as open and transparent as possible. The Parallel Universe Project calls for a dialogue with CJENM and Starship, Wehwa, Woolim, WM, Urban Works, AD, and Vernalasum. This is not a place for assigning blame to the agencies responsible for the ending of ICE1's promotions. We acknowledge the termination of ICE1 as a project group, so our purpose of the dialogue is to negotiate for the relaunching of the group. We sincerely ask officials of the agencies to engage in consultation for the relaunching of the group. Going forward, the Parallel Universe will make every effort to relaunch the group. We ask you for your interest and participation in the Parallel Universe event. Parallel Universe Project. Thank you. So a total of 9,846 Korean fans showed interest in the reboot project and then launched it. Instantly, the project gained attention from fans all over the world. The goal was clear. The founders of the project would schedule hashtag events to gain attention and would start a funding project to reboot ICE1. The hashtags trended both in Korea and internationally, and not only could it reach more fans and non-fans, but it also reached the agencies and the members. On April 16th, Twitter user and big Hyewon fan site DC Hyewon tweeted alongside one of the trending hashtags telling member Hyewon that, quote, if she supported our team, to put a carrot emoji in tomorrow's private mail. Private mail is a fan cafe service, kind of like Bubble if you're familiar with that. And to the joy of many fans, Hyewon has used the carrot multiple times since this post. This sparked joy in many fans, knowing that they had support of the members on their side. Same day, April 16th, 2021, the founders announced details on the funding project. The initial launch was only open to Korean fans, and it was through a Korean funding site, and was with a guaranteed refund in case of the project failing. Now, before the actual launch of the project, it was done in the faith that the just short of 10k initial fans alone would be expected to reach around $2.9 million US. This was an insane number to begin with, and well, they weren't wrong. The official funding opened on April 21st, and within the first 10 minutes, they already had nearly $700,000 US. That is 73% of the goal listed on the website. After 21 minutes, the funding had reached 120% of its goal, with over 1 billion won, or $1 million US collected. On April 26th, the founders behind the Parallel Universe project revealed that they had been in contact with agencies. They couldn't reveal much about which agencies were cooperating positively and negatively, due to the fear that some agencies would back out completely because of being exposed. They revealed that their way of approaching each company had been different, as well as the platform they decided to use. Just to give you an idea of how powerful these fans are, they were talking to some of the CEOs on Kakao Talk. On April 29, 2021, IZ*ONE's official fan cafe as well as the private mail fan service closed. The members all posted their official goodbyes on the IZ*ONE's Instagram account and returned to their agencies. But the Parallel Universe project was still going. The founders were in constant contact with the agencies, and the project had raised more than $2 million funded by the Korean fans alone. Over the next few months, the people behind the project consistently shared updates regarding the conversations with the agencies and kept doing events to spread awareness about the project. Due to the fear of the agency suddenly pulling out, the information given was somewhat sparse, but the fandom was getting more and more optimistic about the outcome. In an update on May 23rd, the Parallel Universe project wrote, quote, after contacting the top prioritized companies, they said that though they agreed with the purpose of the project, it is difficult for them to participate in the project, end quote. However, the funding campaign was coming to an end with no official answers, and fans, including the people behind the project itself, were starting to get worried. Things weren't going as fast as they had hoped, and according to the update made on June 11th, the Parallel Universe project was no longer leading negotiations, which only worried them more. Next update came on June 18th, where the statement said the following, quote, except for one Korean agency and the Japanese offices, we have checked that the agencies agree on a relaunch and are having working level consultations, end quote. And just a day later, it was revealed that the major South Korean entertainment company, CJ were considering handling the relaunch and wanted to move forward with the negotiations. Things were looking up. Most companies agreed to the relaunch, the members showed support, and now a major source was backing up the project. This could only mean good news for the new IZ*ONE. Except, sadly, this did not work out. On July 5th, CJ Entertainment announced that they were no longer going through with a relaunch due to the lack of agreements between the agencies. After 19 days of silence from the Parallel Universe account, they came back to deliver a 16-page drive link detailing the entire situation and why it failed, and then they officially closed the project. I will not be reading the full 16 pages, but there are some key things that I think are important to be pointed out. First of all, the contract extension was very much real, and there had even been money invested into starting new projects for the group. However, the extension talks were being handled very poorly by CJE, which might have led to everything failing initially. 2. Most of the agencies were still eager to go through with the extension/relaunch, even if it was just for a few months. Third, if there had been a relaunch, it would have most likely been without Hitomi and Nako, as the Japanese company was almost entirely impossible to get in contact with. Lastly, CJ announced the failure of the Parallel Universe project without talking to the people behind the project first. It has been a year since the whole thing ended, and most of the members have made their re-debuts either as a solo artist or in new groups. Yujin and Wonyoung have debuted with IVE, and Sakura and Taewon debuted with Le Sserafim. And these two groups have been doing absolutely amazing this past year, with huge success both domestically and internationally. Hyewon is focusing on becoming an actress, and she released a single featuring solo artist Stella Jung. Minju's goal is also acting, and she signed with a new company in September. Eunbi, Yena, Yuri, and most recently Chaeyeon have all debuted as solo artists. Hitomi and Nako are still in AKB48 and HKT48 respectively, and have both become Senbatsu centers in recent singles. The members are successful, and they do still interact a lot, starring in each other's variety shows and show support through social media. They would not be where they are today without IZ*ONE and the fans, and despite it all being over, it was a great time and great things have come from it. The parallel universe stands as a clear symbol of how devoted a fan base can be, and it shows just how close the fandom was to actually successfully relaunching their favorite group. That is going to be it for this video. The story of IZ*ONE is very interesting, and it truly shows the power that K-pop fans have if they really put their mind to something. It was recently the group's anniversary, so we thought it was a good opportunity to tell their story. Huge thank you to Sophie for all her hard work on the research, as I did not know this much about the group. Please go check out her channel and follow her social media. Please tell us all your thoughts in the comments. What did you think about their story? Did you know everything that we talked about in this video? Leave all your thoughts down below. That is going to be it for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.